So I would improve that Namibian entrepreneurs be on the lookout on some of these pages and say, okay, cool. What program can I be a part of that can help me on my entrepreneurial journey? There are so many.
Tom, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so Africa is actually blossoming with entrepreneurship potential, and it's currently boosting about 7 unicorns. So for those who don't know, unicorn companies are actually privately held companies that valued about over 1 billion US dollars. So why do you think entrepreneurship is actually surging in Africa?
I think it's the spark of new ideas that is coming upon the continent. We have a lot of entrepreneurs that are now starting to think outside the box. People are starting to realize that Africa has the potential. Africa has the resources. The young people here in Africa are vibrant as well. And it's a thing of also, I mean, there is a quote that says that, discovering solutions to African problems. So I think that's the reason why a lot of people are now starting to think entrepreneurship. It's not to say that entrepreneurship is a new subject matter in Africa. If you have to think about the dynasties, Mansa Musa, which was now in Mali, was one of the biggest dynasties that were there. And they built that through thriving entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So
that's right. Okay, and you actually you were a founder of Launch Namibia.
Yeah.
So what was the inspiration behind it? How did you start?
Yeah, for me, it's just the thing of like I discovered a problem, or I discovered a gap in the market, which was now this whole topic of entrepreneurship during the time. It was a bit, it wasn't as vibrant back then. So, I decided, okay, cool. How can we now start this whole discussion? How do we create a dialogue around entrepreneurship? And then as soon as I established a way how to, which was now through setting up a social media platform, and using social media, which is entirely free, to use that platform and then to just spark this whole dialogue around entrepreneurship. That's how it all started.
Like, what is Launch Namibia? What you guys do?
So Launch Namibia is basically, we are a entrepreneurial platform. We are there trying to foster an entrepreneurial ecosystem here within Namibia. What that means is that we are trying to create opportunities for entrepreneurs to thrive in Namibia. And by doing that, you have to look at various how do we say this? Like if you're in an ecosystem, for example, if you're in the ocean, in order for that fish to survive, you have to look at number one, you look at the ocean, you have to look at what is needed within the ocean. You need the food, you need all of these things so that that fish can survive. So just the same, we look at the entrepreneurial environment here in Namibia, and then we try and see, okay, cool, how can we get these entrepreneurs to survive here in Namibia? That's where you look at your environment, you look at the laws that are in place, you look at culture, you look at all of these dynamics and say, okay, cool, where can we find a balance so that these entrepreneurs can thrive? So with us here, with Launch Namibia, we are basically looking at trying to get funding for these entrepreneurs to survive, because funding is an essential point for every entrepreneurial journey. And we do that by, we lure the corporates, we lure government. And then what they put aside for what they deem corporate social responsibility, they usually have a fund for that. We use, or we come up with concepts and then we channel that fund towards the entrepreneurs.
Okay. So in what way do you guys do that? In what way do you guys...
So what we usually do is we come up with fun initiatives. Pitching is a very generic one, but it's one that has worked for so many years, where people just come and pitch their ideas. If if we don't take the pitching concept, then we take short-term programs. Let's say design thinking, where you have to look at your community, you look at your society, and then you have to instill this principle of empathy. And then from that empathetic behavior, that's where you will now realize, okay, cool, this is what I can do to best help the community. Yeah, and this is the ideas that we can generate to help our society.
Very interesting. So how has your organization grown since inception in 2017? You guys started in 2017?
We started in 2017 with the social media platform. When we did start, I didn't even know in what direction Launch Namibia was going to go.
Really? Did you start as Launch Namibia with a different name?
Yeah, we started as Launch Namibia. And we still have the name now, so that's great. But when we started in 2017, it was just a social media platform, trying to populate it with as much content as we can, so pertaining Namibian entrepreneurs. And then we just saw that gradually, it caught on. A lot of people were like, you know what? How do I get onto your platform? How do I also just tell my story as a young Namibian entrepreneur? Yeah, how can I tell my story? How can I gain publicity? Hopefully, maybe I can also get an investor and so forth to just plow back in the business. And as soon as we started telling those stories, that's when now the corporate companies also started to jump on board and say, okay, cool, Tom, we see what you're doing. You're doing amazing. How can we fund you? And then that's where we had the likes of GIZ. I remember when we started was GIZ number one. That was like, okay, cool. What you're doing is amazing. What can we do to make it better? So GIZ, F&B as well jumped on board, and they were like, wow, this is great. And then Standard Bank as well. They did fund us as well. They did give us a little bit of funding to just plow back into the ecosystem. And we've grown since then. I mean, a team that started with one is now a team of like 6-7 people.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. And because we also realized that for a lot of people or a lot of NGOs that are here in Namibia, like they start off on a high, and then once the funding from these entities, dries out, then you see them also come down.
Coming down, yeah.
And what we decided to do is we decided to try and create our own income by setting up various businesses that is still under the umbrella of Launch, and they're doing quite well.
Wow, it's actually interesting.
And then some of the revenue that we get there, we just plow back into the entrepreneurs. That's what makes us sustainable.
Yes. Okay, that's actually very interesting. Then that's very true that most of, especially NGO people in the civil society, like that is like the major problem, sustainability, keeping the organization going and the project going.
Yeah.
Because once that money is finished and then
the project dies.
Then the project dies as well.
Exactly.
So so why do you think helping this entrepreneurship and helping these young people actually contribute to the development of Africa at large?
Yeah. I think it definitely does, because if you are assisting these entrepreneurs and you're assisting, it's not only the entrepreneur that you're assisting, but it's the business also that you're assisting. And under that business, if you realize it's the SMEs that actually, they actually assist in helping this economy, in holding the economy together. They create employment. So you would find that within that business or with that entrepreneur that you're assisting, with their business, they have 2 other people that are under the business. So you assist them, and they can also basically take back an income to their families and so forth. So it's a whole chain.
Yeah,
it's literally a whole chain, and that's what inspires us to continue doing what we do, because you're not just helping the entrepreneur, you're helping a community, you're helping a society. Yeah.
Entrepreneurship often comes with challenges.
Yeah.
So what are some of the uncertainties that you actually experienced during your journey of starting Launch Namibia and from the beginning up until now?
I think so some of the challenges, I think, lie in the conceptualization and ideation phase. You constantly have to conceptualize and ideate new ways of reaching people.
Yeah.
Otherwise, then you come off as boring. You know, they're doing the same thing they've been doing for 7 years. What makes them different? What makes them, you know? And those are the questions that people ask, because we are living in a time where it's a society that's filled with different generations. Now we're dealing with the Gen Zs.
Yeah.
Gen Zs are very, in order for you to catch their attention, you have to come up with something that's very, very unique.
Yeah.
So that, for me, that is one of the challenges that we're facing. Another challenge, obviously, is funding. I mean, you'd want more funding, obviously.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't just want to rely now on, you know, the other umbrella companies to now generate funding so that you can plow back.
Yeah.
So definitely the funding situation. But we do have corporate companies that are usually always on board. If we conceptualize and we give them something that's unique, we present it to them, they're like, okay, cool, Tom, here's the funding for that. So that's always great. And then another thing is also diving into those communities and touching base with entrepreneurs that are really creating solution-based companies, you know? And because usually what you would find here, especially here in Windhoek, is that it's a trend now where it's just the same startups every single time. It's the same startups every single time. So now how can you move away from that? How can you dive into now the communities and find that person that really, really needs the help?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah.
It's like, have you guys managed or how to actually kind of...
Yeah, so what we've been doing right now is that we've been trying to take on board projects that are outside of Windhoek. Last year, like for example, which was our last project, was with Navahab Mine, and they are based within that area of the Irongo area, that side of Osakos, Karibab, Chimbingwe, that area. So we managed to actually sit down with entrepreneurs within those regions and just have a discussion with them. And it was nice to see the ideas that came out of those people.
Yeah.
A lot of them, yes, the ideas were very, you know, some of them, the ideas were the same, but you do find those unique ideas within those communities. Yeah.
Like, especially like now, you guys deal with these startups, the entrepreneurs, the people that are actually starting out. What are some of the challenges that you know that those people face, like from the inception, when I want to be an entrepreneur and I want to have a registered company or something like that?
Yeah.
I want to do something legit. Like, what are some of the challenges that you guys feel that they experience?
Yeah.
Especially now, you guys going deep.
So a lot of the experiences that we've faced is that a lot of those guys don't have, number one is funding. Funding is a big challenge for those guys. And then you will just find that a lot of them also, there's also this problem that they might think that they have a business, but in actual fact, they don't. By what I mean is that in their mind, they would think, you know, this works. This can solve the situation here within the community. But as soon as you do the design thinking with them, and they realize, and then that's where they realize that, okay, cool, I thought I was onto something, but actually, no.
It's not.
Yeah, because it just doesn't make sense. You can't put a multifunctional printing business in an area that has a population of just how many? Like just 200. Because there is a need at that moment and they struggle a little bit, then they think, okay, cool, wow, this is a great idea. But in most cases, it's not. So you need to try and dive into, especially with those small communities, you need to look at what problems are really there and how can I really solve that problem. And then that's where you really have a business that people can invest in and people can say, okay, cool, you're onto something. Yeah.
Okay. Last year in 2023, Launch Namibia was actually nominated as a finalist in the entrepreneurship support system in Africa. So what did that mean to you guys as an organization?
It was great. It was a really humble experience as well, I must say. We didn't win as Launch Namibia, but I at least got an award from that. I got the award of Youth Connector of the Year.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So that was great because I dealt with a lot of young people here in Namibia through various initiatives. So that was a great thing.
Yeah.
But we'll probably try it out again this year. Yeah. It all depends on some of we do have a few ideas, so we just need to implement them, and then
and scoop that award for this
year. That award for this year.
Okay, best of luck.
Yeah.
So Launch Namibia primarily focus on startups that are actually employing technology.
Yeah.
So can you elaborate on the importance of technology in shaping the future, especially in context of Africa?
Yeah. So we generally we love businesses that employ some level of technology. And even if you look at the idea or the definition of what a startup is, a lot of people think a startup is just a business that's starting now. No, but it's not actually the case.
Really?
Yeah. So you can't call basically a food business that is just doing hot dogs as a startup. It's not a startup. Startups are basically you need to have, number one, you need to have an idea. Number two, you need to employ some form of technology into that idea. And then number three, you don't work under the confines of what we would call the normal business scaling. Startups are very fast scale. Like at one point, they have 10,000 in their account. In 2 months, they can have 100,000 in their account. And it's because of the technology that they use. So you would look at companies like this local one of ours. What is that company's name? Jabu.
Oh, Jabu, yeah. Jabu.
Exactly.
It was really fast.
Jabu scaling was so fast, and that's because of the technology that they have. They use technology to reach the people, to reach the communities. And the thing is with Jabu, it's not a local business, it's actually an international business because they're in Zambia, they're away in South Africa, and it goes over the borders, cross-border business.
Yeah.
And they did this so fast, right? And that is what we consider a startup. Yeah, so those are those fast businesses that have potential to go very fast. Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting. So can you share some of the success stories that you guys have, especially achievements of tech-focused startups like that we have that are supported by Launch Namibia?
Okay, so with Launch Namibia, what we do is we usually come in as a mediator.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
So let's say GIZ would say, okay, cool, this is the initiative that we want to run. They would use us basically for administrative purposes to conceptualize and get these startups. And then once they go through us, we hand them over to GIZ. So that's what we do. We don't necessarily per se hold the hand of the startup all the way through. We just identify them.
Yeah.
And then we hand them over, and then they can.
Okay, that's interesting. So Launch Namibia, you guys have a magazine.
Yeah.
So to share entrepreneurship stories.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about the magazine and how did you guys start up with the whole magazine? What was the motivation behind of starting up with a magazine? And how do you select stories that you actually feature in the magazine?
Okay, so with the magazine idea was the first idea of Launch Namibia. And that's why we created the social media platform, because we couldn't afford to print at the time. So we used social media that was free to tell the stories. Yeah. So as soon as we got that funding a little bit, that's where we could now actually publish a magazine.
Yeah. Okay.
And then once we got that magazine up and running,
yeah,
that's where now GIZ came on board. I remember GIZ funded our magazine for like 3 years. And then Standard Bank also came on board to fund the magazine. And because they are our funders,
yeah,
they also do, you know, they what? They
do the selection.
Not necessarily, but they would say, okay, cool, Tom, we would like, here are 3 entrepreneurs that, let's say, I think that you guys should feature. And then we would look at that. We would also go out into the community and try to find entrepreneurs of our own.
Yeah.
And then we'll just cut into that magazine. Yeah.
Okay. Very interesting. So with the magazine, how do you guys publish it yearly? Is it the monthly?
It's a yearly magazine.
It's a yearly magazine. Yeah. Okay. So like looking ahead as well, what are some of the goals and the future goals that you guys have for Launch Namibia, like in the upcoming 5 years or so?
I mean, it's been like 5 years now, I think, since we've been doing Launch Namibia. And every year we just find different things that we want to achieve. I mean, but then obviously we do have a long-term goal.
Yeah.
Our long-term goal is for us to actually venture into financing and funding. So we want to essentially not per se become like an SME bank, but just become a financer for young entrepreneurs and SMEs here within Namibia. That is the long-term goal. We do have short-term goals as well. And those ones are the ones that we usually try to carry out yearly. Yeah. But eventually we would like to become like a finance. We would really like to dive into financing of entrepreneurs and SMEs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. That will be such a huge.
Yeah, especially with asset financing.
Yeah.
Where we actually assist entrepreneurs in buying their first whatever asset they need to make their products. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So, as an entrepreneur, are there any specific trends or opportunities that are currently available in the entrepreneurship ecosystem that one can pick up? Like if you want to dive into membership, you take this, you can actually boom, or you can make it.
Yeah, no, definitely. They are you see that the nice thing is that now there are a lot of ecosystem players within the entrepreneurial space. Just to mention a few, you have number one, obviously you have Launch, and then you have now your NIPDBs, you have Basecamp, you have CC Hub, Namibia. So they are an entity that came from Nigeria. I see now there's Accelera, which is from Angola. So all of these entities are here in Namibia right now, and they are playing their part in building this entrepreneurial ecosystem. And what they usually do, or what they usually have, is entrepreneurial programs that are running. So I would implore that Namibian entrepreneurs be on the lookout on some of these pages and say, okay, cool, what program can I be a part of that can help me on my entrepreneurial journey? There are so many. And even if you don't look at the entities that I've mentioned, you can look at also government. There are government initiatives. You also have the U.S. Embassy that is playing its part.
Yeah.
They, by the way, sent me to the U.S.
Okay.
Was it in 2019 to be part of the Mandela Washington Fellowship, where I was trained on entrepreneurship. So I was there for like almost 2 to 3 months in the U.S. And those are just some of the initiatives, and I'm not even touching base on all of them. There are actually so many initiatives that are out there. Or the entrepreneurs here in Namibia just have to jump to those initiatives and actually be part of it. Otherwise, you're going to have the same entrepreneurs that are doing the same thing.
And taking the same opportunities.
Taking the same opportunities, exactly.
That's very true. So you are obviously an inspiration to so many young Africans that aspire to
I'd like to believe so.
to be in entrepreneurship and to actually that will have to productively contribute to the development of their communities only. So what do you think are the most important skills or principles that one can uphold to actually make it or to be a productive citizen? You know?
Yeah. Number one is don't act timid.
Nah.
Acting timid does not help anyone. Don't be scared. Just go out there and jump for the opportunity. Number two is be principled. Have your principles, know what is right for you, and know what doesn't work for you. Number three, I would say employ empathy. By empathy, I mean like look at your community, look at at the society around you, and see how can you make it better. And then number four, I would say just do it. Let's use Nike's slogan. Just do it.
Just do
Just do it. Just start. Start whatever the business idea you have.
Yeah.
Just start somewhere. Don't try to be perfect because that usually it slows everything down. Yeah. So just start with what you have. Start making an impact by just going into the communities, going into society, and just doing you.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, before I actually let you go, like how do you want to be remembered as Tom? You know?
I want to be remembered. I have the slogan that I always put on my caption, which is "I rise by uplifting others." That's how I want to be remembered. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tom.
All right.
Okay, before actually, how can people reach out to you or to Launch Namibia?
They can reach out to Launch Namibia via the email. So you can try hello@launch.com.na. That doesn't work. You can try another email, launchnamibia@gmail.com. If that doesn't work, you can use our telephone or cell phone number, which is now 081-5821-790. And if that does not if that does not work out, you can use my personal. I'm joking. Don't call me on my personal number. Yeah, no.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's those three options.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you so much, and we really, really appreciate it, and we wish you all the best as well.
It's a pleasure.
And we hope that you guys this year scoop up that
award.
that award.
We need it, eh?
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay.